Good morning and welcome to Talking Pop Culture with Jake D. I am live this morning to talk about Mandalorian Chapter 11, The Heiress. So, we're coming off a slow, weaker episode in Chapter 10 from last week where it was, it was a side adventure, side quest, video game escort quest type of episode. And, so certainly I was hoping for an improvement this week with Chapter 11, The Heiress. This is brought to us directed by Howard again, Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed Chapter 4 in Season 1, which was one of the weakest episodes that we got during the first season of Mandalorian. And it was, she definitely did a better job with the direction in Chapter 11 than she did in Chapter 4. Got to give her that all day long, although I could still kind of get the sense that this was Bryce Dallas Howard as compared to, say, a Jon Favreau directed chapter. And it was overall good episode. There's definitely some areas where I struggled with it and maybe was not particularly super happy with the episode, but I mean, honestly, totally decent chapter. No really significant complaints about it. At a high level, Mando's coming in. The Razor Crest is really, really damaged, as we saw from the events of Chapter 10. And he's trying his damnedest to bring it in soft onto the landing pad on this planet that we don't ever really get the name of what planet we're on. I don't know if that's, I mean, you don't lose anything by not knowing the planet name, but the Star Wars geek in me is like, man, I sure wish I knew what planet it is. So he comes in, he can't quite stick the landing because the ship's just beat to hell. And he gets fished out by a crane that's on top of what looks like the remains of an Imperial walker, which was kind of a neat touch. I liked that. It was a little bit, it gives you a little bit of a member berry, but kind of in the right way. They've repurposed it and it's, now doing work at the port. So that was pretty good. I didn't mind that at all. And so Mando has arrived. It's an ocean planet. His ship is beat to hell, but he gets there. Frog Lady meets her mate, and nice little happy reunion. And as promised, her husband does indeed direct him to where he can find some information about more Mandalorians. This was indeed the planet that we saw during the trailer that, the water, and you get the glance of Sasha Banks's character. So we don't see any more than that other than just the brief glance. It's still not really known for sure what character she's playing because the same glimpse that we got of her in the trailer for the show is the same glimpse you get of her during the actual Chapter 11 when you're sitting down to watch it. So Mando makes his way over to the bar, pub, restaurant, gets some food for the kid, and gets directed by paying for it to where he may be able to find some Mandalorians. He gets out on the boat, and they're going out. A few people have complained about the fact that they're using a boat to transport across the water. For me, it was fine. This is an ocean planet. It's not your typical, it's not like you're talking about a Deadliest Catch crabbing type boat, although it does appear somewhat inspired by that type of vehicle. I mean, you're on an ocean planet. Presumably the boat's got some high tech. It's definitely some type of fishing vessel. And, for me, it doesn't, breach my suspension of disbelief that they're going to use a boat on an ocean planet. So, that part totally fine by me. And so they head out and, sure as hell, these guys double cross him. They tell him to, check out feeding this sort of sea monster that they've got in the hold. And problem being exactly, it's cheaper to sail than to fly, and it attracts less attention. See, I'm with you on that. There, again, some folks have complained about that, but it's just fine for me. They toss Baby Yoda in with the sea monster. Mando jumps in, and then boom, they throw the grate across it. These guys' idea was to kill Mando, take the Beskar, because the Beskar, again, this works. It's extremely valuable, so they want to steal it because, they're bad guys, whatever. Part of this scene that I did not like, and to me, this was the Bryce Dallas Howard direction of what was going on, is Mando gets chucked in the hold with the monster, but instead of fighting the thing, he's just trying to get out of the grates that are holding him in. And, he doesn't fire off his flamethrower. He doesn't use his whistlers. He doesn't pull his gun. No, nothing. But boom, Bo-Katan and her two cohorts drop in. They take the guys out that were trying to kill Mando. They let him out. He tells them, hey, no, you got to save the child. The child's still in there. And, she drops in and kills the monster, gets the child out of there. But, her weapons magically work, whereas Mando didn't even use his. And so that was a little bit problematic for me. And I really think that's the Bryce Dallas Howard influence on the episode. It's, it was a setup to bring them in. And, him not fighting that monster just didn't seem very Mando to me. Exactly. Problem being, Mando's a bit pathetic in the episode. Maybe his armor was dragging him down, aquaphobic, whatever, right? It just, that part didn't feel super Mando to me. It took me out of the episode a little bit because, I mean, we've definitely seen him in worse situations where he fought his ass off, and he didn't fight in that. But anyway, they get him out, and he's got these 3 Mandalorians in front of him who just saved his ass, and poof, off pop the helmets. So Mando's instantly thinking, hey, these guys aren't real Mandalorians. Where the hell did you get that armor? And we get the reveal that this is Bo-Katan, who is a character from the Clone Wars and from Rebels in particular. And she's a big deal if you have been a part of that sphere of the fandom. A very important character. Now, I will definitely raise my hand and say I have only watched bits and pieces of both Clone Wars and Rebels because I'm just not an animation guy. I'm familiar with who the character is because, certainly I've read about or seen people talk about what went on in those animation shows, but they're not my big thing. I like the live action as opposed to the cartoons. But of course, being a Star Wars fan, I at least am familiar with who she is. And we get a very interesting reveal in the discussion between the 4 of them because she identifies Mando as having come from the Watch, which I believe is the Death Watch, which was a sect of Mandalorians that you learn about in those shows, whereas they are not. And, basically they tell him, and it helps explain this issue that people have talked about with him not willing to pull the helmet off, whereas we see Mandalorians do it all the time in the cartoons. And so it is good that they solved that problem with the helmet because it's something people have been talking about. I'm definitely going to get to that problem being that was a little bit, that was the other piece that was to me, it was very Bryce Dallas Howard, I think. Because she just can't help herself. I really do. So it solves this issue with the helmet, though, and they explain it a little bit better, and it ties up what some folks felt was a bit of a plot hole. So they save him. He goes ahead and takes off because he doesn't want to be a part of where they're at. And so he goes back to the port, and he doesn't feel like there for him, but he gets confronted by the family of the guys that tried to double cross him on the ship. And instead of just killing their asses like he did the thugs in chapter 9 that waylaid him at the pit fight, he's just kind of standing there. Forgive me, it's early and I need enough coffee to destroy an entire star system right now. So instead of killing all the thugs, Bo-Katan and her buddies show up, and then they attack, and Mando manages to kill like one of them. And they tell him that they'll help him out, find him what he's looking for, provided that he helps them with what they're up to, which is to try to get the weapons off this transport ship. And yes, coffee is absolutely the way, problem being, oh, yes. So, once again, Mando gets used. And that is starting to become a problem for me. Mando is, in just about every episode, the only way he can get his goals advanced is if he agrees to do something he doesn't want to do for somebody else. And you can definitely do some of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Him agreeing to help out another group of folks in order to advance his own goals. The problem becomes when that's every single episode. So what do we get? Chapter 9, he's got to help out the Marshal to get Boba Fett's armor. Chapter 10, he's got to go on the video game escort for the Frog Lady in order to find more Mandalorians. Chapter 11, he's found other Mandalorians, but they aren't going to tell him where the Jedi are until he helps them hijack a ship. And so it's every single episode this season has been that way. And that, to me, is starting to get a little bit old. If they keep doing this, they're going to lose my attention. So I'm certainly hopeful that we are at a point where this trope ends, because it's getting tired. So Mando agrees to help him, right? They're going to go ahead and they're going to take out this ship. And if he does that, they're going to let him know where a Jedi is. And we definitely got the confirmation that his kind means Jedi, because in this episode, he just flat out says Jedi rather than his kind. And he also says that he doesn't know shit about Jedi. But Bo-Katan, of course, reveals that she does, and she knows where one is. Quest of the week formula, precisely. And it's, again, it's not that is something you can't do. It's just when you do it every single week, it gets old. But okay, so they go ahead and they waylay the ship, and it will be Luke. No, it will not be Luke unless they're pulling a bait and switch on us. Bo-Katan did specifically say that it was Ahsoka. She called her out by name as Ahsoka Tano. So, I mean, unless they're pulling a bait and switch on us, then no, it's definitely going to be Ahsoka, not Luke. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to pull a bait and switch, but I guess we'll find out either next week or the week after, one or the other, I imagine. So now we do get a pretty good scene when they decide to attack the ship. So the ship takes off from the port, and they use the jetpacks to land on it. And you get a pretty good fight scene on the exterior of the ship. Again, I think you're really seeing the Bryce Dallas Howard influence on the direction of the episode, though, because the action is more heavily weighed towards the Bo-Katan and her two buddies rather than Mando himself. They do more of the killing on the outside of the ship, and then they go in, and then you get fighting through the corridors against the stormtroopers. And again, the entire time you've got Bo-Katan and her boys in the lead, and Mando is in the back of the group and barely seems to fire a shot. And that was a problem for me. I didn't like that. This is the Mandalorian, and he has over and over proven that he is a capable fighter and a badass. And, you know, so I don't know, maybe he's hanging back because he's got his own quest that he's got to do, and he doesn't want to be in the direct line of fire. I mean, I guess you could explain it that way, but I do think that, you know, what it really was about was what Problem Being says here, which is he's hiding behind the other Mandalorians while they kicked ass, and only in the end did he do some heroics. And, you know, it did. I completely agree that it was mostly meant to boost the gals because Bryce Dallas Howard is the director of this episode. And despite being written by Favreau, her being in charge of the direction means that she is, you know, sort of the one who handles things like the blocking and maybe the specific acting and the positioning and those sorts of things. You know, the script doesn't necessarily say, you know, hey, Bo-Katan's in front and she shoots 5 stormtroopers. You know, it'll say something to the effect of, hey, you know, they're in the corridor and they got the stormtroopers and etc. So, I mean, I really think that was Howard's influence on how things played out more than anything else, which, I mean, it is what it is. I hope she doesn't direct many more chapters because these things pop up. They were muted. I mean, it wasn't offensively horrible, but at the same time, it was very noticeable. And to Problem Being's point, it was jarring to have Mando sort of pushed to the back, and he sort of guest starred in this assault on the crate ship as opposed to leading it, which in a show called The Mandalorian, I mean, you know, I'm looking for my Mando to lead, not Bo-Katan. But they attack the ship, they secure the cargo, and then they're going to go to hijack the ship entirely. And we finally, for the first time this season, get a shot of Moff Gideon. Ah, yes, thank you. Sorry, gotta have the coffee. So the commander of the ship, he talks with Moff Gideon. He says, hey, man, we need some backup. Moff Gideon says, no, that's not going to happen. You know, long live the Empire. You know what to do. And so the captain shoots his pilots, and he's going to crash the ship in order to protect its cargo and keep it from the Mandalorians. They storm the cockpit, and we finally get a heroic scene from Mando. When he's got no other choice, he goes ahead and he runs out into the repeating blaster fire, chucks a couple of his mini thermal detonators at, you know, these 5 or 6 troopers with the heavy repeating blasters, takes them out. They capture the ship. Mando and one of the buddies, they pop into the pilot seats, and they just manage to stop the ship from crashing. The action was pretty good. And the main problem was not having Mando be an exceptionally active participant in it, because this dude's proven himself to be a badass. And other than that one scene where he makes the charge on the guys, he played second fiddle. But so they get the ship, which is what Bo-Katan was after. It's got a lot of weapons. It's going to help her retake her planet of Mandalore. And she also confirms that Moff Gideon has the Darksaber, and the last standing captain in the Imperial ship, you know, he goes ahead and he self-deletes in order to prevent capture, which, you know, okay, that was good. Liked that. Bo-Katan reveals to Mando where he can find specifically and precisely where he can find Ahsoka Tano. And so he's going to move on to go ahead and do that. She definitely says that, you know, she'd like him to be a part of what she's doing. But, you know, he's, pardon me, he's got his quest and he needs to take care of it. So he heads on his way. You get kind of a funny little scene where he pops into the Razor Crest, and the Mon Calamari, who had repaired it, did I mean, it's flying, but but it wasn't exactly a shiny, pretty repair on the ship, you know. And it was, I mean, like, one part of me thought it was, you know, kind of a cute, funny touch to have the repair not necessarily be up to Mando's standards. But then there's another part of me that it's like, it's almost like they're suggesting that the Mon Calamari weren't capable of repairing it to his standards, which, I mean, we certainly know is not the case. That Mon Cal is a very, very high-tech civilization. Its people are very, very high-tech. I mean, you could write it off to say the guy didn't have the appropriate level of parts, so, you know, he strung it together with what he could in order to get it, you know, at least flyable and safe again. And, you know, I really hope that's what Howard had in mind when she did the repair that way, as opposed to suggesting that, you know, maybe this is some kind of backwards species, because that you know, certainly is not in keeping with the lore. And we'll just go with the he repaired it with what he could answer, which is probably fair. I mean, they're in a shipping port, water shipping port, much more than it is a space port. So, you know, I can definitely buy that maybe they didn't have, given the state of the Razor Crest, they didn't have everything they needed to get it back to Mando's standards. So, you know, I can live with that. And you got a really funny scene where a smaller version of the monster that they tried to feed Mando and the child to earlier in the episode, you know, some kind of baby or adolescent version of it, was coming at the child, and Mando, boom, grabs it and kills it. And then, of course, Baby Yoda eats it, which was, yeah, I mean, I guess they just can't get around any, they got to have obligatory, the child is eating gags, apparently. This one was good, though. It didn't fall as flat as the egg thing. And, but, you know, good news, we did actually get story advancement today, which we didn't really get much of in the previous two episodes. I mean, you had more story advancement and, you know, learning more about what's going on in the world and moving it forward today than we did in the previous two episodes combined. So that was a good step forward. You know, they did finally get the story moving more again. It was good to finally see Moff Gideon again. And of course, we've got a bit of the subplot set up with Bo-Katan wanting to recapture the Darksaber. We know that he's heading to Ahsoka Tano, and we've got the precise location. So presumably next week's episode, either right at the end of chapter 12 or perhaps at the beginning of chapter 13, we're going to finally get the Rosario Dawson Ahsoka Tano reveal. We did see the Sasha Banks character today, but we just saw the same brief glimpse of her that we got in the trailer. So there's still not a confirmation as to who she is playing. The rumor is that it's Sabine Wren from Rebels. Given the fact that we did indeed have Bo-Katan today, played by Katie Sackhoff, it is certainly possible that that's who she's playing, and we're going to see her again later, obviously. You don't do a little tease like that and not pay it off at some point. You know, perhaps she's going to follow him to Ahsoka, or, you know, who knows? We will find out. I do expect Bo-Katan will be back probably for the final two episodes of this season. I would say there's a decent chance we're going to get Timothy Oliphant's Marshall back as well. And so clearly they're building the way forward for Mando, which is good. That's a big step forward from what we got over the last couple of chapters. So if I got to give this one a rating, I'm going to... It's a little hard to rate because of the Bryce Dallas Howard elements that came into this. I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 on this one. if they had not sidelined Mando during 2 of the big fights, I think I could have gone as far as maybe an 8.5. But the sidelining of the Mando brings it down for me, and we're going to have to go with the 7, and that's a shaky 7, because making the guy second fiddle in his own show is not cool. One thing that I do think that we may see coming out of this is that we're going to get a helmetless Pedro Pascal at the end of this season, and I think that Pedro's complaints about the helmet are going to get resolved, and they're going to do it in a it's probably going to come as a result of Bo-Katan breaking him away from the Watch because that's a dogmatic, ultra religious sect. And my suspicion is it's either going to get removed and she's going to get him okay with it, or she'll convert him away from the Watch. Lord Thoth, good morning, sir. Hail to you. So, but yeah, I'm going to go with that sort of 7 on this one. And not a bad episode by any stretch. It was really the Howard sidelining Mando that hurts the score for me. The action was good. I was good with the score that we had in this. The story advancement was excellent. We did finally take some steps forward, and we have a really good idea where we're going finally, which is great because we've been missing that. But yeah, overall, no really major complaints. I don't think we're going to have all that much sidelining of Mando going forward, because I really do think that is it's the Bryce Dallas Howard effect, and I really hope she's not back to direct, because she keeps doing that because she just can't help herself. All right. Well, by goodness, I appreciate everybody tuning in to listen to the review. And yes, it is refreshing to discuss a current era show that doesn't suck. If my worst complaint is, this director who did 1 episode this season and 1 episode last season is a little bit, to the side that maybe bugs us a little bit, that's not bad. Because it really was a good story. There was good action, and we've moved forward, which is what we need in these condensed seasons. You can't deviate from the main story too much. Well, I appreciate it. I hope that you all have liked the video. Please share it with your friends on social media. Comment down below. Let me know what you think and your thoughts on Mando Chapter 11, The Heiress, who is, of course, Bo-Katan. Thank you, and everybody have a good day. I'll catch you on the next video.